Akzeptanzrede des Nobelpreises für Frieden im Namen des Preisträgers gelesen.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, citizens of the world, my dear Venezuelans. First, I want to express our infinite gratitude from my family, from an entire country, to the Norwegian Nobel Committee. Thanks to you, the struggle of an entire people for truth, for freedom, for democracy and peace is today recognized around the world. I am here on behalf of my mother, Maria Corina Machado, who has united millions of Venezuelans in an extraordinary effort that you, our hosts, have honored with the Nobel Peace Prize. But although she has not been able to be here and take part in this ceremony, I must say that my mother never breaks a promise. And that is why, with all the joy in my heart, I can tell you that in just a few hours, we will be able to embrace her here in Oslo after 16 months living in heaven. And as I await that moment to hug her, to kiss her, to embrace her after 2 years, I think of the other daughters and sons who do not get to see their mothers today. This is what drives her, what drives all of us. She wants to live in a free Venezuela, and she will never give up on that purpose. That is why we all know, and I know, that she will be back in Venezuela very soon. In the meantime, at this moment, I face the difficult task of giving voice to her words, the speech she prepared for this occasion. This is her speech. I have come here to tell you a story. The story of a people and their long march toward freedom. This march brings me here today as one voice amongst millions of Venezuelans who rose once again to reclaim the destiny that was always theirs. Venezuela was born of audacity, shaped by peoples and cultures intertwined. From Spain, we inherited a language, a culture, and a faith that merged with ancestral indigenous and African roots. In 1811, we wrote the first constitution in the Spanish-speaking world, one of the earliest republican constitutions on earth, affirming the radical idea that every human being carries a sovereign dignity. This constitution enshrined citizenship, individual rights, religious liberty, and separation of powers. Our ancestors carried liberty on their backs. They crossed an entire continent from the banks of the Orinoco to the heights of the Potosí to help give rise to societies of free and equal citizens, out of the conviction that freedom is never whole unless it is shared. From the beginning, we believed something simple and immense, that all human beings are born to be free. That conviction became our national soul. In the 20th century, the earth opened. In 1922, the Reventón in La Rosa erupted for 9 days, a fountain of oil and possibility. In peace, we turned that sudden wealth into an engine for knowledge and imagination. Through the ingenuity of our scientists, we eradicated disease. We built universities of global prestige, museums and concert halls, sent thousands of Venezuelans abroad through scholarships, trusting that free minds would return as transformation. Our cities glowed with the kinetic art of Cruz Diez and Soto. We forged steel, aluminum, and hydropower, proof that Venezuela could build anything it dared to envision. But Venezuela also became a refuge. We opened our arms to migrants and exiles from every corner of the world. Spaniards fleeing civil war, Italians and Portuguese escaping poverty and dictatorship, Jews after the Holocaust, Chileans, Argentinians, and Uruguayans escaping military regimes, Cubans escaping communism, and families from Colombia, Lebanon, and Syria seeking peace. We gave them homes, schools, and safety, and they became Venezuelans. This is Venezuela. We built a democracy that became the most stable in Latin America, and freedom unfolded as a creative force. But even the strongest democracy weakens when its citizens forget that freedom is not something we wait for, but something we become. It is a deliberate personal choice, and the sum of those choices forms the civic ethos that must be renewed every day. The concentration of oil revenues in the state created perverse incentives. It gave the government immense power over society, which turned into privilege and corruption. My generation was born in a vibrant democracy, and we took it for granted. We assumed freedom was as permanent as the air we breathed. We cherished our rights, but we forgot our duties. I was raised by a father whose life's work, building, creating, serving, taught me that loving a country meant assuming responsibility for its future. By the time we recognized how fragile our institutions had become, a man who had once led a military coup to overthrow democracy was elected president. Many thought charisma could substitute the rule of law. From 1991 onward, the regime dismantled our democracy, violating the Constitution, falsifying our history, corrupting the military, purging independent judges, censoring the press, manipulating elections, persecuting dissent, and ravaging our extraordinary biodiversity. Oil wealth was not used to uplift, but to bind. Washing machines and refrigerators were handed out on national television to families living on dirt floors, not as progress, but as spectacle. Apartments meant for social housing were handed to a select few with a condition for unquestionable obedience. And then came the ruin, obscene corruption, historic looting. During the regime's rule, Venezuela received more oil revenue than in the previous century combined, and it was all stolen. Oil money became a tool to purchase loyalty abroad, while at home, criminal and international terrorist groups fused themselves to the state. The economy collapsed by more than 80%. Poverty surpassed 86%. Today, 9 million Venezuelans have been forced to flee. These are not statistics, they're open wounds. Meanwhile, something deeper and more corrosive took place. It was a deliberate method to divide society by ideology, by race, by origin, by ways of life, pushing Venezuelans to distrust one another, to silence one another, to see enemies in one another. They smothered us, they took us prisoners, they killed us, and they forced us into exile. It had been almost 3 decades of fighting against a brutal dictatorship, and we had tried everything. Dialogues betrayed, protest of millions crushed, elections perverted. Hope collapsed entirely, and belief in any kind of future became impossible. The idea of change seemed either naive or crazy. It seemed impossible. Yet from the very depths of that despair, a step that seemed modest, almost procedural, changed the course of our history. We decided against all odds to run a primary election. And unlike any act of rebellion, we chose to trust people, to rediscover one another. We traveled by road and by dirt path in a country with gasoline shortages, daily blackouts, and collapsing communications. Forbidding from advertising, without money or media willing to speak our names, we crossed it only with our conviction. Word of mouth was our network of hope. And it spread faster than any campaign, because our desire for freedom was very much alive within us, and it had never died. The forced migration that was meant to fracture us instead united us around one sacred purpose: to reunite our families in our land. Grandparents confided in me their greatest fear, dying before meeting their grandchildren abroad. Little girls with voices too small for such sorrow begged me to bring back their mothers and siblings scattered across the continent. Our pain fused into one heartbeat. Bring our children home now. In May 2023, during a rally in the town of Nirgua, a teacher named Carmen came up to me. She told me she had just run into her jefa de calle. A jefa de calle is a regime agent assigned to Carmen's block who decides, house by house, who receives a monthly food bag and who is punished with hunger. Shocked to see this woman there in that rally, Carmen asked her, "Why are you here?" And the jefa de calle replied, "My only son, who fled to Peru, asked me to be here today. He told me that if Maria Corina wins, he will return home. Tell me what I have to do. I'll do anything." That day, love defeated fear. 2 weeks later, we reached Delicias, a tiny village swallowed by Colombian guerrillas and drug traffickers, where not even a chicken can be sold without their permission. No candidate had gone there since 1978. And as the team climbed the mountain, I saw Venezuelan flags waving from every humble home. I naively asked, as if it was a national holiday that merited all the flags, and someone whispered, "No, here the flags are hidden. Bringing it out is dangerous." Today, people raise them to thank you for daring to come. You will leave, but we will remain identified. That day, entire families stood up to the armed groups that ruled their lives. And when we sang the national anthem together, sovereignty returned in a single, fragile, defiant chorus. That day, courage defeated oppression.
Dies ist eine Website, die dir hilft, dein englisches Lesen und Hören zu verbessern. Sie zerlegt Sätze per KI in leicht verständliche Wortgruppen. Mit dem Player kannst du Tempo, Pause und Rücksprung frei steuern, um jede Zeile zu verstehen. Die Seite bietet Übersetzungen in 20 Sprachen für barrierefreies Lernen. Gib einfach englist.com in deinen Browser ein und probiere es aus.